it's not going to work. You know, Brazil, India, and China, they carry the average everywhere they go. Here, São Paulo and Rio carry the average for the rest of the country. So we can't work with national averages. We can't work with averages unless each person feels their life has changed because of these goals. These goals will mean nothing at all. We need to think differently. So, what we did was to develop a campaign in 2004 to try to speak with the civil society and the private sector, to make them understand their responsibility in the process. And we understood that since we carry the average for the world, maybe we can do something that is as good as carrying the average for the rest of the world. Maybe we can come up with a campaign that will be copied in other countries. And we were able to do that to a certain extent. So in 2004, we created these icons here. We don't have the icons here, right? These icons, which you probably saw before in the US or in other countries you've been to. Because these icons were developed by a Brazilian artist. Not yet. And they have been copied throughout the world. And our campaign was also copied throughout the world. We developed a campaign called We Can. And it was copied even by the president. But yes, we can. Everybody jokes with us now, like, is that the Obamas? Yeah, it's We Can. No, we came first. We're here first. It's called Nós Podemos. So we have Nós Podemos throughout the country now. In each state of the country, there is a Nós Podemos. It started as a national Nós Podemos, together with a movement called a National Movement for Citizenship and Solidarity. From that movement, I'm going to pass this around later on for you so you can read about it. This movement created this campaign. And this Nós Podemos, just this year, we were able to get to each of the states. So we have Nós Podemos Brasília, Nós Podemos Gama, Nós Podemos Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Paraíba, many other states around. Why? Because first we started nationally, it wasn't enough. We have big companies, gigantic companies. This was produced by McCann Erickson and Coca-Cola, and all those big companies joined in, and they were doing their social responsibility activities, their corporate social responsibility activities, each one in their own way separately. And we said, no, that's not the spirit of we can. The spirit is the we. It's that together we can do a lot more than you alone. So we tried to come up with an idea, a plan to have these companies and the civil society and each of the Nós Podemos, the state Nós Podemos, work together. Okay, you can have your own activity, but you still have to come up with one that we can do it together. And the main activity we have to do together is to reach out to the communities, is to get to the municipalities. Why? Because some of these targets are very difficult to achieve. Because we have to find the vulnerable communities. To get the rich people to get more rich, it's easy. You know, to get that pregnant lady to have 7 visits to the doctor instead of 3, it's easier than getting that one that has never been to a doctor before to have 3. Why? Because that one that has 0 visits, we can't find. They're very difficult to find. For one, because they're in the rural areas, very hard. In your nice car, you won't get to that. You know, they live across the river. You have to, get in a boat 4 days off the river to get to them. So it's difficult, and the only way we can do it is by getting people to understand that and get on their sneakers, not on their heels, and get to their communities. Get to these communities that most need help. But to do this, we need money, lots of money. It's very expensive to help the poor. unfortunately. But most of all, you need will, you need goodwill, you need to want to do this and get more people involved. Because I have a family, you have a family, there's just so many hours we can put into this. You know, we put more, but we need more people to get involved. And people that can make a change. Because to a certain extent, there are a lot of people that want to help. Most of them don't even know how to help. So you need to show them, one, how, but you also need that one that don't want to help, but he knows, he has the power to make a change. That politician, that friend of that politician, that other one that has access to the TV, that one that has access to that influential person at the seat of a corporation that can put in the money, can put in an influence. So not only the poor people want to help the poor people, but unfortunately we need to get to the rich people that don't want to help at all. But they have a way of doing it differently than we can do it. Civil society can only go so far. We need the government. We need the local governments, and we need the national, the federal government. You know, sometimes you say, oh, you only work with the federal government. Well, we need them. We need the local government. Oh, you're not getting there. We are trying to get there, but to get there, we also need to get to the federal government. So it's difficult. You have to articulate a lot of factors to move forward in a meaningful way. You can't just move a little bit. You have to go all the way. You can't just go to these poor communities and give them a pound of rice. You have to give them more. Give them 10 pounds. So maybe they'll give a month to find a job. They'll have a month to find a job. You know, they can't just eat today. They have to eat for a month or more until they can get their own way of making money. So today we have this big campaign. The icons are very well known throughout the country, but people still don't know how to work to help to have this accomplished throughout the country. And that's our job. We have been trying in each state to develop a different campaign. What works here in Brasília does not work in the north of the country. And the same goes for the south. You know, this is very well known in the south of the country, but not in the north, because people there understand things differently. We all speak the same language, but it's still very difficult to get the information across and to get people to help. So, having you here, it's also very inspiring to learn how you're doing your part to help all this process. This is a global campaign today. You may also have heard of the global campaign called the Stand Up. It's a campaign called, now it's called the Stand Up and Take Action for the Millennium Development Goals. And every October, we get together and in a symbolic gesture, we stand up and register. Take a picture or do something and register in a website called the Stand Against Poverty. And that gets broadcasted throughout the world on the big news and TVs, and it attracts attention. The movement is to call attention of leaders, world leaders, especially from the rich countries, to have them honor their promise. They promised to help the poor countries to develop, and they're not fulfilling their promises. But it's also to call the attention of the local leaders to also fulfill their promises to their constituencies. They also have to do something. And here in Brazil, it's also to call the attention of the civil society and the private sector especially, to have them understand it's also their responsibility. They also have a responsibility to the well-being of poor people throughout the world, or at least in their communities. They have to help the communities around. So it's an interesting campaign. Maybe next year you can get involved. João has promoted something here as well this year. It was very interesting. This year we got 178 million, right? People, 178 million people to stand out throughout the world. It's a simple campaign. Brazil had a very hard time accepting this campaign because we have too many campaigns. So we're sick of, you know, hugging everybody and doing that, and then tomorrow doing nothing. You know, we stand up and then we sit down. No big deal. Yeah, we stand up. So that we had to really work hard at building the message, telling them stand up's not enough. You have to take action. You have to do your part. Here we translate it as do your part. Faça sua parte. And that also means we're not just yelling to our president and our world leaders. We're saying we're accepting our individual, our group, our community responsibility to help the world develop. And that's what all our jobs are about. It's really not doing it only for ourselves, but for the others. Because we profit from that in many different ways. And you know that by now. But I don't want to talk too much. I already talked a lot. I wanted to just welcome you to Brazil. I'm not sure you got, well, actually you got to see the city, right? Brasília already a little bit. You met some interesting people, I'm sure. I told you there were some other interesting people. Wish you had time to meet, but I'm not sure you will. But I hope you come back. I hope you keep doing this that you're doing. I hope you get to go to many different countries and help a lot of people. And I'm sure you grow a lot more. You'll feel like you've been helped much more than you help, I'm sure. But I also want to thank you for coming and helping my country. I'm a United Nations officer, but I'm a Brazilian. And I'm very proud of being a Brazilian. And I have to thank you for coming and spending time with us, getting to meet a little bit of our community, our very poor community. They need a lot of help. And please come back. But if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer for you.
Oh, thank you. If you guys have any question,
I have a few of
only chance.